Between client meetings, managing your business, and everyday tasks, who has time to worry about website hosting? With Kinsta's managed WordPress hosting, you don't have to. They handle the technical stuff, delivering lightning-fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 365 human-only support. Simply switching to Kinsta could make your site up to 200% faster. Kinsta's custom dashboard makes managing sites easy, with powerful features designed to save you time and effort. Plus, their free expert-led migrations ensure a smooth transition. Ready to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses? Get your first month free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta, simply better hosting.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
Coming up on episode 313 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Toyota Supra manual, the BMW X5M Competition, Tesla Model 3, Range Rover, Mercedes EQB, a wrapped Lightning, a Nugget camper, Right to Repair is back on, and a Chevy Blazer EV Pursuit, the Kia EV5, all that and more coming up next. This is episode 313 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
Ooh, nice upgrade.
Yeah, new job.
Hopefully this one lasts more than a couple of weeks.
No, I'm going to be at this place for a very long time.
Good. And what about you? Who are you?
I'm Tanya Gazdik, and I'm joining as a guest since Nicole Wakeland could not be here this week. And I am from Media Post, Towards Auto, Girls Guide to Cars.
Woo!
And as you mentioned, Nicole is off somewhere. I'm not even sure where she is today.
I can't remember.
She didn't say. She just said she was traveling, and so not sure exactly where she's at. But
it's the busy fall travel season.
Yes.
Is it fall?
Not quite.
I don't know.
It's all. It's still officially summer for almost another 4 weeks, but in reality, one more week until Labor Day weekend, and then everybody kind of treats that as the end of summer.
See, in the Bay Area, we treat it as the beginning of summer because this is when it starts getting hot. This is when it gets nice.
Depends where you are in the Bay Area, though. I mean, if you're like in the North Bay, it's kind of hot all summer, but if you're in San Francisco, it's a different story.
The North Bay. No one cares about them. They got wine. Leave them be.
All right. Well, why don't we start with you, Tanya? What have you been driving this week?
Oh, I have stories. This week, I just got a Mercedes 2023 EQB 350 4MATIC, and it's a pure EV. And I thought, well, let's see if how it goes in terms of charging. Okay. First, I should say the vehicle is fantastic. It's slightly underpowered for an EV, but I think we've gotten kind of spoiled. It's only got 288 horsepower.
Oh, only 288.
Well, here's my comparison. Okay,
how do you live?
Last week I was in a 2023 Range Rover long wheelbase, and it had 523 horsepower. So I think it's when you go from one of those into a 288 that you're kind of like, oh, what happened? But it's a great car. Charging it is I'm going to have an experience today because I think we're going to go up to Frankenmuth and see if we can get one of the 2 charging plugs in like the whole town. But I went to Eastern Market Saturday morning, busy day. There's 2 charge point chargers with 4 stations. Thank God there was 1 open space. Guess who was parked at the other 3?
Teslas.
Big gas guzzling SUVs and pickups.
2 Jeeps and a Lincoln, not EVs.
Yeah, okay.
Not plugged in.
Boo.
So I'm going to have to do some research again. I did this a couple years ago, actually. Every state has their own laws in terms of how they're going to enforce non-compliance at EV stations. And, I don't want to have to confront people. That's just not, I don't have time for that. But these people came out when I was leaving and they were getting into their Jeep and, they had kids. And I really wanted to say, like, do you not want there to be a planet for your kids? Because, anyway, I don't know. It's like I could have said.
Do you hate the future of your children? Do you want your children to be fighting in the water wars in 20 years? Is that what you want?
Or I could have said, like, well, I hope someday when you have an EV, you can find a space because we're all going to be there at some point, I guess. But yeah. So anyway, it's an issue. I was able to charge and it was, oh God. But here's the other thing. It was ungodly expensive. I was there for an hour and a half. I added like 25 miles, slow charger, $9 and something. Like close
charged by the minute or by the kilowatt hour?
Kilowatt hour, but it's just ungodly expensive. And then I started reading the comments on ChargePoint and everybody was like, it's highway robbery. Because it's like, the only charging stations, like there aren't a lot of them still in downtown Detroit. You would think there would be, there's not. Yeah.
I mean, they're kind, you can find them. They're in like in the downtown area. You can find them in some of the parking garages. Particularly the ones right around the GM Renaissance Center, around the GM headquarters, and then some of the other parking garages you can find some. But they're all, pretty much all the ones I've seen are level 2 chargers.
Mm-hmm.
There's no level 3, and I haven't even looked around Eastern Market area to see if there's anything there.
This is it. There's 4 level 2s, and that's it. So there are level 3s in front of the Renson. There's 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I was there, I think I had a Bolt actually, and I thought, I should take the Bolt to the mothership and charge there. And one of the 4 was broken in front of GM headquarters.
Dun dun dun.
And this is why everybody is doing deals to use the Tesla supercharger network.
And I see,
but even those, there aren't any superchargers in Detroit.
Really?
Not in the downtown area. I don't.
Not in downtown. They're at Meyer grocery stores.
Yeah.
So there is one at 8 Mile and Woodward, which is technically Detroit, but not. It's like on the.
It's not downtown.
No.
There's technically one in Detroit.
It's like on the border, of Detroit. And
yeah.
8 Mile is the northern city limit of Detroit. 8 Mile Road.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my life.
So tell us more about the Mercedes.
Well, it's full of wonderful tech and the I can't get over the lighting. The lighting, you'd think by now I'd be used to the crazy lighting, but it's like out of the air vents, there's like this light show and I'm just like, wow, okay, this is new. The one thing I'm still not quite getting used to is I hate the gear shifter on the, right behind the steering wheel. So I'm always thinking the stock. Yeah. And
like old timey automatics.
It's like an old timey automatic. And I'm not quite, I think they were trying to keep the, reduce some clutter in the middle console, but there's still a lot going on in the middle console. I don't know that they did a whole lot by doing that.
Imagine if they had put it there. It's like an airplane.
Yeah.
Tons of things for you to push.
Yeah. And no wireless Apple CarPlay. I'm not even going to talk about that anymore because it's just such a source of frustration. And I don't get it. I mean, this is, the other thing, it's a base. So the base is 60,000. My version is 73,000. Heated seats are not standard. It's like and
a Mercedes. Come on.
I'm serious. I was looking at, I always parse the Monronis and it's like heated front seats. $500. It's a line item on the Monroney. So I'm like, okay, I'd be kind of annoyed if I just spent $60,000 on a car and then you said, oh, $500 more for heated seats.
Well, at least they're not charging you a subscription for it.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm sure that's coming.
I know they would like to. I don't know if they will. I think that they have seen the pushback against BMW. Because BMW has not spread it to other countries. It's still very limited testing. And I don't think that they're getting a whole lot of positive feedback from those attempts. So I don't expect the Mercedes will. Although I'm going to be doing a panel at the Move America conference in Austin at the end of September that includes the head of Mercedes Pay. And I will ask her about that.
Yeah, I think you should, because I was surprised. And, in fairness to Mercedes, it's still a bargain compared to the $153,000 Range Rover that I had last week.
Ooh. And what's the range on the EQB?
EQB is, I think it's around 250 is what I got when I'm fully charged. Yeah. It's not on the Monroe.
That's not bad. That's adequate.
It's not horrible.
243, 250. I mean, they essentially just shoved an EV powertrain into the EQB,
right? The
gas car, and changed a few things. For what it is, you're like, oh, this is actually nice. I drove it in Germany, and I was like, oh, everyone got it. Like, oh, it's an EQB. If you like the EQB, you want to be electric. There you go. Doesn't have it's not all insanity like a lot of the other Mercedes, where it's just like so much tech from the new the new stuff. So yeah, I was just like, oh, you just want an EQB, it's electric, here you go.
The Range Rover was incredible. I felt like a princess like all week long. Just I felt like I should be giving the wave, because it's the most gorgeous car. And I was driving around Grosse Pointe, which there's a lot of gorgeous cars in Grosse Pointe, but it was getting a lot of attention, and it's styled so nicely. Just, I got to give it up to Range Rover. I don't have $153,000, but
not many automotive journalists do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just looking at the supercharger map while you were talking, and the only supercharger in the city limits of Detroit is the one you mentioned at Woodward and 8 Mile. And there are 4 destination chargers in the downtown area in various parking lots. It turns out the closest supercharger to downtown Detroit is actually in Windsor. It's closer to downtown than the one on 8 Mile. So if you need a supercharger, you might need to duck through the tunnel and
make sure you got your passport with you. And
and then head over to Windsor. But there are others around outside. In fact, there's 2 supercharger stations here in the Ann Arbor area. One about a mile and a half away from me here, and one over on the west side of Ann Arbor. So we have a higher concentration of superchargers than pretty much any other place in Michigan. So, all right. So the Range Rover, you said, was 153.
That was, base price is $135, but oh my God, the stuff this had on it, $3,500 for the most beautiful 23-inch bespoke silver wheels that you've ever seen. $3,500 for wheels. I just thought that was a lot.
I mean, that's not cheap, but we've seen more expensive wheels than that.
You're buying the Range Rover. That's how they get to.
I mean, when you're up over $100,000, I mean, what's another $3,500 for wheels?
$3,500 for wheels.
What's nothing?
And
nothing.
When they say bespoke, I mean, typically bespoke usually implies that it is custom made for you. Like buying a bespoke suit, you get your body measured, and they cut and sew a suit to fit your body.
I think anything over $3,000 is just bespoke. The world of Range Rover.
I mean, unless it's something like they have designed and cast a wheel specifically for your car that nobody else has, then it's not really bespoke.
No, it's a misuse of that word. Yeah.
Words mean things, Range Rover. Words mean things.
Not to marketers.
No, that's true. Everything's a coupe.
Yeah, words have no meaning to marketers.
Well, the exterior color is Batumi gold, so whatever.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, it's an attractive color.
Batumi, though. What is a Batumi? I'm not even sure what that is.
Who knows? Again, it's probably made up.
Probably.
It probably has no meaning at all.
But the Caraway interior, it's like butter. The leather seats, massaging seats, it's got everything. I didn't want to leave the car last week. I did a lot of driving. I just did not want to leave.
Just keep driving around.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop at a gas station every couple hours to refuel it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about the fuel economy?
Sure. Did it make it into the single or into double digits?
It did actually. 16 city, 21 highway, 18,
wow.
18 combined. Not horrible for a car, for a vehicle that big.
Is that the supercharged V8?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yes. It was, for 523 horsepower, it better be, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the Range Rover or the EQB?
Not yet. I got to spend some more time in the Mercedes, and today I'll be doing that this afternoon, putting a couple 100 miles on it.
Excellent. All right. Robbie, what do you got?
So I went to the old Monterey Car Week this week, and while I was there, on the way there and back, and while I was there, I drove the BMW X5M Competition.
So because an X5 is exactly what you want to take to the track, right?
Yes, and then you're like, you know what I need? I need a competition, and so that's what I got. It's a lot, as you can imagine. Let's see. What's this puppy say? It has a lot of power that's not on the Monroney. Hold on.
You keep talking. I'll look it up.
So I the competition, typically you're like, oh, I'm going to get an M2 or an M3. But now you can get that on the on an X5, which is, you need 617 horsepower whenever you're driving around in an SUV. So you got that going for you, which is nice.
17 horsepower. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Why not? I got in the car and I was just like, okay, I got to drive this thing to Monterey from my house. And I was surprised at how well the steering is super tight and really nice. Like much better than I anticipated. I know it's an X5M competition. I know that's the whole deal is, you want to be able to, technically take it on a track, I suppose. But yeah, no, it did really, the cornering was really nice. As much as you can chest cornering driving on the freeway. And then once you're up in Monterey Car Week, everyone brings their supercars and their Porsches and their whatnots. And then we all just sit in traffic. So it's good times.
It's kind of like the Dream Cruise in that respect.
Yeah, you're like, I got this crazy car. Sitting in traffic, looking at
the adaptive cruise control, hopefully.
Yeah. No, I didn't have adaptive cruise control, actually. Which, X5 competition, you don't need adaptive cruise control when you're competing.
I gotta ask you a question though. Since this was a competition, did it have the BMW seats with the extra crotch support?
It did not have extra crotch support.
Oh, okay.
It just had regular seats, but they were also they had a massage. So there you go. That's all I really cared about.
Especially if you're sitting in traffic.
Yeah, for a long time on the way there, on the way back, and then while you're just cruising around. Overall, no, I really liked it. Actually, is it too much power? Could you just get an X5 and be fine? Yes. Could you just get an X5M and be fine? Completely. Could you? But if you want to throw down a big chunk of change, the starting price on this vehicle is $122,300. The vehicle I took delivery of, $141,445. So yeah, it's a lot. It had the executive package, which means it had the heated and cooled cup holders, which is sort of like my favorite thing, by the way. Just like I want to be able to put my soda in there and then hit cold, and it just keeps my soda nice and cold instead of 2 hours later. It's sort of
so you could go light on the ice, so you're not watering it down.
Yeah,
and just have the cup holder keep it cold for you.
Yeah, and if you if you drink warm drink. If you get I got my a chai, and I put that in there, and it stayed nice and warm. So who cares about anything else this car
That's all
did?
the reason. That's all you really need. I mean, yeah, sure, it's got 600 plus horsepower.
I don't care.
It's got a heated and cooled cup holder.
Yeah, but the executive, it's $3,100. But you also get front and rear heated seats, so everyone's butts are nice and cool, or nice and warm, and then it has the front massage seats. What else? What other crazy things you had? Bowers and Wilkins sound, always nice. The driver's package, $2,500, which I don't know, a bunch of stuff probably. Yeah, no, I mean for Car Week, it fit right in. To be honest, you want something that's sort of crazy, over the top. I've gone to Car Week and Integra. And a Urus and a Ford Contour. I rented a Ford Contour one year because that's the only car I could get, because the fleets, because Car Week is here, the fleets are all used up because they're given out to journalists and executives and marketing people, and so the fleet manager's like, I got nothing for you, man. And so I ended up renting a Ford Contour and then going to events with Maserati and Lamborghini and Mercedes.
Perfect. The
valets, because you end up going to people's houses that they've rented out and they park the car somewhere else. And so the valets are like, oh, okay. Like, hey, you scratch it? I don't care.
What color was it?
It was this like urban green. It was
the Isle of Man green metallic?
No, I think it's actually urban green. I think that's what they're calling it. It's a different green.
It's not the bright green?
No, it's literally looks like let's see if I can find I'm pretty sure it's called urban green.
I wonder if that's an individual color.
Yeah,
an actual bespoke color.
Isle of Man. No, I don't see it. I don't see it on here. Oh.
At least it wasn't one of the 3 shades of gray that they offer, or 2 shades of black.
Oh yeah, it's called urban green and it costs $5,000.
Okay, so it is kind of bespoke. Yeah.
So it's a it looks very close to like a military green. Like if war had broken out, they would have I would have been.
So you could have camouflaged it somewhere.
Yeah, I could have just got a little dirty and been fine. It has a 4.4 liter twin power turbo V8. It's got a 48 volt mild hybrid, so you can just sort of take off. That's always kind of nice. It's M2 all-wheel drive, Apple CarPlay, wireless, so you can just wireless charging, so you can just keep your phone in your pocket if you're just driving down the street to pick something up from the store, which is always nice. So we have that in our Hyundai where it's wireless, so I just get in the car and I drive in and it'll just bloop, pop up and play music for 10 blocks, and I don't have to take my phone out of my pocket and find a charger, plug it in, and shove it somewhere. So, no, it's a good car. 15 miles per gallon combined. 18 highway. I was getting about 14.8. I think is what I ended up at the end of the time.
So the Land Rover or the Range Rover was positively thrifty by comparison.
Yeah, it's a thrifty. They weren't stomping on the accelerator though on their way back to after getting stuck in traffic to go to do a thing. I was very busy last week. I had the car show, then I had to leave the Range Rover event, and not the Range Rover. I'm sorry, the Rolls Royce event, and drive directly to Alameda because my band was playing a show, and then there was all this traffic because people kept getting in accidents, probably because of the car show, and I just barely made it on time. So when I wasn't stuck in traffic, I was driving fast. I was driving fast, not quickly. So yeah, BMW X5M Competition. Again, if you are someone with a lot of money and you still need an SUV for whatever reason, for kids, and just the X5M just isn't cutting it for you, and you demand over 600 horsepower, you can get the Competition, and everyone's going to have a good time in the car, except for people who are naturally nervous when they're in,
or prone to motion sickness.
And then I flew to Pittsburgh for the new job, and I had to rent a car, and it turns out the cheapest car you can rent at Hertz is a Model 3. So I drove the Model 3 for the first time in quite some time, probably like 5 years. It's very weird because I remember when this vehicle came out, I didn't give it a great review, to be honest. I was one of the first people to get it, and Tesla was not very happy with me for not giving it a great review. But I had a lot of issues with, some of the safety elements of the fact that I had to dig through folders in order to get to the windshield wiper, stuff like that. So I got into the car, and one of the big issues I had was they were telling me, well, it has auto wipers, so you don't need access to the windshield wipers. So I'm just driving around from the airport, going to my hotel, and for literally no reason, it's not raining, it's sunny outside, the wipers just start coming on. They're just on. This just kept turning. I was like, what is happening? I was like, oh, maybe I drove, behind something, or I went through a puddle, or someone in front of me had done their wipers and some of the water had hit the sensor. So I was like, okay, the first time I'm fine. But it just kept doing it for like 5 minutes. It would just turn on. I was like, all right. So I dug through the menus, turned off the stupid wipers, and we're just like, oh my God, this is so dumb.
And the way they do that is they use the forward-facing camera to try to detect raindrops hitting the windshield. So, and that's the same cameras that they use for autopilot and quote unquote full self-driving. If they can't detect something like raindrops, how do you think they're going to do with other stuff?
It's not a good thing, to be honest. I drove it around, the chassis and the drivability of it, it's really nice. It handles well. The comfort level is still not great. My cousin went and bought one of these when they came out, and his wife drives it now. He absolutely hates it just because it's uncomfortable. The kids, their children refuse to go on road trips in it just because it's uncomfortable, especially in the back. I drove around. The seats were cushy, but like not comfortable. Does that make sense? Like a bad Lazy Boy, like an off-brand Lazy Boy recliner. So
kind of soft and mushy, but not really they're supportive sort of where they need to be.
Yeah. So they felt sort of soft and mushy and not really that supportive. If you're just driving around town, that's fine. If you're going on a long road trip, which is, kind of one of the reasons you would get a Model 3 is because you have that, that really great Tesla charging network. So you can do a road trip without, pulling your hair out or, creating some sort of spreadsheet to determine where you could park or just using a better route planner, that app, which is really helpful. They have a new version of this coming out sometime at the end of this, well, they're going to announce a new one.
Eventually.
Yeah, sometime this winter or fall, I hear word on the street. And so we'll see if they've fixed a few things. I just want a dash cluster. I don't know why that's so hard. I'm disappointed.
At least if you're not going to put that,
head-up display. Yeah. Like Volvo, their new inexpensive EV doesn't have a dash cluster or head-up display. And I'm like, come on. At least VinFast has the head-up display.
Yeah.
You want to be outdone by VinFast? Is that what you're looking for?
Apparently.
So, yeah, Model 3, you can get them pretty, I think this one, I'm looking at the $40,000 is, it's the rental special. So whatever the cheapest one they could get. Yeah, other than that, if you're driving around town, it's a good little car. You're just going to get kind of irritated with, especially if you become accustomed to buttons. And it's really interesting because when it came out, it's like the EQS. They came out almost in a vacuum because there wasn't really much else out there. There was the Bolt was out, and then the Leaf had been out, and the Leaf was kind of boring. The Bolt was, it was for the time you're like, oh my God, this is pretty good. And then this came out, and just you're like, oh, this, it handles really nice for this much money. Okay, fine. But since then, so many other EVs have come out, and now you're like, well, why would I buy this when there's all these other things? And yeah, the price, $40,000, but I feel like, I'm getting a better experience in my Kona EV or a Nero EV or, even the Bolt, it feels like a better, just in-cab experience. This just sort of feels sort of,
my fear is a lot of people, the first EV that they get into is going to be a Tesla at a Hertz. And they're going to find it so bizarre and so unlike anything they've ever driven. They're going to think all EVs are like this, and I don't want to deal with it. There was an article in the New York Times this week. If you have a chance to look at it, it's really funny. It was written by a native New Yorker who doesn't own a car, who went and rented a Tesla, and her account of like the anxiety of trying to figure things out. it made me think, she might be a New Yorker who doesn't own a car, but if people think these are EVs, it may not be good for the market.
Yeah, it's like I drive car. This was my argument with Tesla when I had the car and I was doing my review is like, well, I'm like, no, my job is to drive cars. That is my job. And when I'm having difficulty finding things, and not just like one or two things, because every car, like, Audi keeps their ADAS stuff down in that weird little stock. I've never been a fan of it. I've told Audi a bunch of times, and every time I get in the car, I have to sort of like relearn what that little stock does because you can't really see it.
Right. No.
With the Tesla, I'm like having to search for things every time, and I'm just like, well, everything is in this, and I have to push this and push this, and instead of like giving me like relevant information on that screen, they're like, oh, here's a little graphic interface to see what the cars are around you. I'm like, that's cool for about 10 minutes when you first buy the car. After that, get rid of it. I don't care about that. Put all the put the things that I will actually need to touch in that spot. I don't need to see that, oh, there's a big truck going by. I can see the big truck going by, Tesla. I don't need that information constantly. I don't need a little cartoon constantly playing on my display. So
the Rainbow Road is worth it, on the Tesla.
You can't put on Rainbow Road.
Did you do the Rainbow Road?
No, I was just driving around. You can, and you don't have to like push in like special codes anymore. You can get to all that stuff.
Rainbow Road, you just hit the right stock twice, and you're on.
Yeah, it's like yeah, but I don't know. I just needed to get around town, and that's where you are with when you have a car is eventually you just need to get around town. You just need to do your stuff. You need to get to work. And some of the like sort of the goofy things, I'm just like, all right, fine, have your goofy things. I think the in-car dog thing is really smart. I think the fact that only Rivian has like added that is sort of bonkers to me. The fact that Subaru doesn't have it yet is weird because they're all about dogs and love. So right. Yeah, Tesla Model 3. I know the Tesla fans are going to be angry with me. They were probably angry with me when I drove the car before, but.
Well, they're angry with us all the time because we always say negative things about Tesla,
we all say the same thing.
Yeah.
We all say the same thing, and that's where the issue is. If I'm the only person who finds these things an issue, then you're like, okay, sometimes your opinion is out of step with the rest of the world, and that's fine. But when like everyone is saying the exact same thing, you're just like,
it's not like we don't, the things that we complain about. Like having all these things buried in the touchscreen interface. We complain about that when any automaker does it, not just Tesla. That's not unique to Tesla, or not having a display in front of the driver. We complain about that. Doesn't matter if it's Tesla or anybody else. So, these are just things that we think, we don't think are the right things to do when you're designing a car.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Fortunately, some of the automakers they're wising up a bit about these things, and they're adding buttons back in. And so hopefully, a lot of these issues
knobs are good. Buttons and knobs.
Buttons and knobs, something I can just reach and turn or push or tap or whatever without having to take my eyes off the road. Every time I take my eyes off the road, I'm just like, this is bad. This is bad.
Yeah.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. All right. Well, I had the Toyota Supra, GR, or I should say the Toyota GR Supra, because it's not just a Supra, it's a GR Supra. And I like this. Well, first of all, this was the first one that I've driven that had a manual transmission. Nice. I've driven the Supra before with an automatic, but this one last year for 2023 model year, they added the option of a manual transmission. And that's something you cannot get in a BMW Z4, which happens to be built on the same assembly line and shares its platform with the Supra. So if you like this platform and you want 3 pedals and a shift it yourself transmission, the Supra is the way to go. The one I had was the premium, the Supra 3.0 premium. It has twin turbo inline 6-cylinder 3-liter engine, 382 horsepower, 368 foot-pounds of torque. And I repeat that I believe that of all internal combustion engine form factors, the inline 6 is probably the ideal. It is torquey and powerful and smooth, and it sounds great. And I really love the powertrain in this thing. The shifter was also great, nice slick shifting, nice clutch pedal feel, good, take up, right kind of in the middle of the travel. So I really enjoyed driving this. One thing that may annoy you is that, they call it an intelligent manual transmission, which means,
I'm confused by that.
So basically it means it has rev matching.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And this is not a new phenomenon. There are other cars that have this. The Nissan Z has rev matching, but the Nissan Z has a button on the console that you can press to turn rev matching on or turn it off. And if
You don't really need rev matching when you're cruising through the Target parking lot.
right. And if you don't want rev matching, if you want to, be challenging yourself to, try to get that perfect shift every time, sometimes you want to turn it off. There's no way to turn it off that I could find in the Supra. So, overall, I like the design of the Supra. I like the kind of the curves and everything. I think if they would just get rid of the fake vents, in the front wheel, in front of the rear wheel arch and on top of the front fenders, and just kind of smooth that over and just have it solid sheet metal, I think it would be much better. But I like the proportions of it, and if they could just smooth that out, I think people would be much less annoyed by the design of the Supra. But one complaint I do have about it is sitting in it, especially after you've driven the Z, which is probably its closest direct competitor, 2-seat rear wheel drive sports car, coupe, is visibility in the Supra is really quite bad. Because the way the roof line is going forward, it's kind of a chopped roof, so it's got a fairly small greenhouse, and on the sides, the sides of the roof kind of curl over, so you've got fairly short side windows. So when you're at an intersection, you almost always, at least here in Michigan, where most of the intersections have traffic lights that are kind of strung diagonally across the intersection. So they tend to be a little closer to you. You have to lean forward to see the lights, things like that, which is kind of annoying. If you're going to be driving briskly, it's a good idea to have some visibility of what's around you, and visibility
and things.
Yeah, visibility out of the Supra is not great. So even though the Z4 doesn't have a manual, if I was going to buy this platform, I think I'd probably go for the BMW, just because it's convertible. But actually, I think I'd probably choose the Nissan Z over this, just based on visibility, being able to see out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason I would choose the Z is the Supra has, when you get in it, you can clearly see the BMW heritage, the BMW parts, because it's got the iDrive infotainment system with their center controller, which I'm fine with that. But for some reason, the Supra does not have support for Android Auto. It has support for CarPlay, but not Android Auto. And I haven't driven the current generation Z4, so I'm not sure if that one has it. I know other BMWs all have Android Auto support. So that also was kind of an annoyance. And of course, the Nissan Z does have support for that. It does. The Supra does have, some Brembo 4-piston brakes front and rear. So good solid brakes. I was good with the ride quality. The handling felt really good. It was a decent audio system, 12 speaker JBL system. The options that were on this thing, it had the driver assist package for $11.95, and because it's a manual, it didn't have any adaptive cruise control, just standard cruise control. Blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, and parking sensors. $1,200 for cruise control and blind spot monitor, cross traffic alert.
Just what?
It's a little steep. But this is basically a BMW, so kind of BMW pricing. This one also had carbon fiber mirror caps for $925, because you need those carbon fiber caps on your mirrors, on your side mirrors.
If your mirrors aren't carbon fiber, why are you even doing on the road?
I know. So, I think I would probably take a pass on those. All in, the Supra, the GR Supra 3.0 premium manual transmission came to $59,040, which is it's a fair bit. you can get the Z Performance Pack, or whatever the branding is. The higher, the base Z starts at $40,000, and the performance version, which still has 400 horsepower, is 50 grand. So you're looking at almost 10 grand more for this one versus a Z. And the Z has more cargo space in it. I know when I had the Z, when my wife and I were leaving on a trip and I dropped it off at the airport, easily fit 2 standard carry-on bags in the back of the Z and a couple of duffels or backpacks, no problem at all. That would be a tight squeeze in the Supra. So there's a lot I like about this car, and some things that are annoyances that I think might be a showstopper for me. I did love the color though. This one came in in Stratosphere, which is a lovely shade of blue. And the Supra for 2023 at least offered 5 color options, including Stratosphere, Nitro Yellow, Renaissance Red, and then a black and a white. And who cares about those? So 3 of the 5 colors were nice bold colors. So that's a good trend. I want to see more of that. More bold colors. So that is the 2023 GR Supra. The 24 model, largely unchanged, but the base price has gone up by about $900. So it's a little more expensive. And the base price, you can also get the Supra with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, which starts at $44,640. The non-premium 6-cylinder starts at $53,600. And then there's also the A91 MT, which adds a few other bits of carbon fiber here and there. Starts at $59,445. So that's the Supra. A lot of things to like, some annoyances, but overall, it's good sports car. I'm glad it exists.
When you get in the Supra, I'm like, this car should be in a convertible. And then you remember it's a Z4.
Yeah.
Like I got in and I'm like, this car would be just like 2 seconds. I could just make this into a convertible. And then you're immediately reminded, the other car is a convertible.
If it was a Z4, if it was available as a convertible, then most of my complaints would fall away. I could live with it as a convertible.
Yeah.
But
I can't see.
It's hard to see out of.
I can now.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into a few of the news items of the week. Of course, the single biggest news item, of course, was the launch of the Ford F-150 Platinum Black. Platinum Black. It's a matte black finish on an F-150 Lightning, and it's not even painted. It's actually wrapped. For an extra $7,000, they will wrap your Lightning in matte black finish.
It's kind of badass, but my question is, I've heard, wraps are not a big thing here in Michigan. They are in California, so maybe Robbie can speak to this. But
my car's wrapped.
Is it okay? They're harder to maintain, right? I mean, you can't go through a car wash.
Well, I mean, my Miata is wrapped. I wouldn't take that through a car wash anyway. So I just wash that by hand.
Okay. So this is going to have to be washed by hand, probably.
Not necessarily. I don't think so. I think, they probably did this, in such a way that, it's probably going to be fine with a car wash. Although, with a big truck like this, a lot of car washes won't fit anyway.
Yeah, it's just going to be like, bloop, 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 back up. And then everyone else has to back up. And now you've just created a problem. You know what I like, not to hijack the conversation, but I'm going to anyway. I like when people, that spray on bed liner that people can buy. They just spray the whole truck that. They just spray the whole truck, the spray on bed liner. And I'm like, I enjoy that. That means you're like, you know what? I'm going for it. I'm trucking. I'm doing truck things with my truck.
Buy an old beater truck and just spray the whole thing in that stuff.
It probably adds like 100 pounds of weight to a truck. I don't know how much that stuff weighs, but I'll see that, and you touch it, and it's all like gristly and like hard. It's like it's almost like feeling granite, like some not the shiny granite, but granite out in the out in the wild. And I'm a big fan of that. So if they had made this into that, they're like, hey, you know the stuff we put in the spray-in bed liner? Yeah, we just did the whole truck. The new Ford F-150 Lightning, kick it if you want edition.
There is one other detail that wasn't really mentioned in any of the Ford press materials, but I caught it from listening to, or watching, I think, TFL video that Andre did on this thing, which is if you look at the pictures of it, on the passenger side front fender, there, up until now, there has been a thing on the front fender that looked like a charge port door. And when they first launched it, they said, yeah, we did that, so you'd have symmetry between the left and the right side, but it doesn't actually open. It's it was fixed in place. It just looks like the one on the driver's side where the charge port is. So
it just tricks your friends.
Now that's gone. And so I'm wondering, my guess is, that they did this, as a cost reduction, because, that having that extra part there and having to install that and everything, that adds cost. And so I'm wondering what other interesting cost reduction things they might be doing to the Lightning for model year 2024.
It's so weird because you don't have like a gas, cap on both sides of my car.
Right. I know. It was always kind of a goofy thing.
The Mercedes has the LiDAR, or it's either the LiDAR or the radar on the Model S that has level 3 driver's assistance. Mm-hmm. And the way it's set up is that there's another one on the other side that doesn't do anything. It's there for symmetry, because it's like right in the front of the car.
Audi does the same thing on
for like the front models. Fascia. So you're just like, okay. I'm like, what's this do? They're like, nothing.
Yeah, it's just a dummy.
Engineers are like, it's just for symmetry. I'm like, all right, it's the front of the car. I'll let you have it.
Yeah. But it's not like you can be looking at both the left and right front fenders at the same time anyway.
How would you even? I can't even imagine how. Yeah, I don't. That was a weird decision, Ford.
Yeah. So if you want a factory wrapped matte black F-150 Lightning for 24, you can get one now for $98,000.
There you go. Or you can just go down to the local wrap place and have them wrap it for you.
Yeah, for probably
all the wraps I see are really nice. I don't know how much it cost. I don't know what's.
Yeah, I mean the one that's on mine. I'm not sure. It was the guy I bought it from actually had it wrapped. I think it was about $3,000, something like that, and it still looks great. It's like 8-9 years old now.
Oh, that's pretty good.
You hand wash it and you garage it, right?
Yeah. But most people, they don't, when they see it, they don't realize that it's wrapped. They just think that it's a silver color. And then I open the hood and they see that the underside of the hood or the door jambs are white, which is what the original color of the car was. Okay, that's cool.
You got to get it wrapped with like Hello Kitty stuff. That's the power move.
Well, when it's time to replace my wrap, I think I'm just going to get it repainted in Mariner blue.
Oh, you can get it wrapped in Mariner blue.
Maybe.
Or you can get it wrapped in Mariner blue with Pikachu on it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Also from Ford, they've just announced a new product in Europe that sadly we will not get here because we can't have nice things.
Big mistake. They could sell bazillions.
So many of these.
Yeah. So this is the new 2024 Ford Nugget camper with a plug-in hybrid powertrain. So this is based on the Ford Transit Custom. So Ford sells a bunch of different sizes of vans that are all branded as Transit. And you have the Transit, just the standard Transit, which is the big full-size one. That's the one we have here. There's the Transit Connect, which is the compact one, which we did have here, but is now being discontinued. And then there's the Transit Custom, which is the mid-size one. And, this is actually a really nice size. But we can't have it for reasons.
Everyone who doesn't do this in the United States is just giving that market to Mercedes.
Yeah.
Well, the Mercedes is dropping the Ventus, Virtus?
The Metris. The Metris is gone, but the Sprinter, those things are everywhere here.
Yeah.
They're all outfitted with all this crazy stuff. and there's nothing between that. There's you can buy an old VW bus, you can buy an old van again,
or
if you
wait for
want.
the new one. Wait for the new
one.
Well,
Which
apparently they're now saying that they're not going to do
it's too
camper
expensive.
here.
It's too heavy. That's what it was.
Buzz, yeah.
Yeah, that's too heavy for whatever reason. But the PHEV I think this thing starts at like $83,000. It's still cheaper than the Sprinter because the Sprinter is a big giant Mercedes, and you need something that's not quite this ginormous like size of a house van for people, and they would sell so many of these, and I just don't think they realize it. I'm like, you remember when you were like, oh, I don't know if we should do the Maverick or not? Yeah, you should look into this.
Yeah. Ford, at the very least, Ford should offer the big Transit with a pop-up camper option.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why they don't, or have, partner with somebody to do, a version of it, an upfitter to do a pop-up camper version. Because that would be really cool. But
there's a lot of little bespoke companies that'll do all this, but the fact that you could just get one direct, some people just want to buy it and go do things.
Yeah.
Mercedes deal with and I think they have a deal with a couple upfitters. Upfitters, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one like 2 doors down from my house. Neighbors have it. I'm like, man.
I know. When last year when my wife and I were out there vacationing, in Sonoma, we saw the Sprinters, overlanding Sprinters everywhere, or various Sprinter campers, everywhere, driving up and down Highway 1 and all everywhere over that area.
We're silly with them.
Yeah. All right. Next up, a few weeks back, we talked about. We've talked about before about the law that was voted in by voters in Massachusetts to require for right to repair that required automakers to open up their telematics systems to enable customers to take their cars to independent repair shops and have them diagnosed over the air through the telematics system, which dealers can do now. Most automakers have this. You can do remote vehicle diagnostics on your car. If a light comes on, it can tell you what the problem is. But they've never opened this up to independent repair shops. So Massachusetts voters voted in late November 2021 for an amendment to their right to repair law that would require manufacturers to do this. Once that was passed, Subaru announced that they would no longer offer telematics on their cars sold in Massachusetts, which is kind of crazy. And a month or two ago, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said, yeah, we don't think that automakers should comply with this because, there could be security problems, which, is a real issue. If you're opening up your telematics system, this is a system that can not only read information from your car, but it can also send commands to your car to do things potentially. And NHTSA initially said, yeah, no, we don't think automakers should do this. But now they have changed their mind and they've given approval. So automakers, I think, are still fighting this. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which is usually kind of the opposite of that, is I think is still fighting this, but the federal regulators have said, nope, go ahead. We've looked at it. We don't think that there's going to be a problem here. So if you're in Massachusetts, you'd be able to get your things, get your car remotely diagnosed with through the telematics system going forward. All right. Let's talk about the Chevy Blazer EV police pursuit. Now, Tanya, you had originally, when the Blazer was announced last year, I think you put in a reservation for one, right? And
I already asked for my money back.
Right. Because you won't be able to use your CarPlay in there.
No, that's not why.
Okay.
I'm having problems with GM, but that's like a whole nother show.
Oh, okay. Well, Chevy is now the first automaker to officially offer a police pursuit package on one of their electric vehicles, and that's on the Blazer. Last year, Ford they brought one of their Mach-E GTs to the annual Michigan State Police testing program, which they do every September. They test all of the police rated vehicles for various performance and other criteria. And they just took a stock Mach-E. They didn't make any changes to it. They wanted to see how it would perform against the other cars, and it didn't do great because of issues with motors and batteries overheating and other stuff. Now Chevrolet is the first to actually offer an official police package for the Blazer EV. What do you think about this?
I think it's going to be my next speeding ticket. They're not going to see it in my rearview mirror on I-96. I've already said that, but it looks like, I mean, I guess the thing is the Blazer versus they wouldn't do it with the Equinox EV because it doesn't have the performance that the Blazer is going to have. And they obviously need to be able to go fast. It's probably the biggest thing. And an EV, it's going to be, I think, and it's going to be reasonably priced compared to a lot, I think the other problem with Ford is it was going to just be too expensive.
They haven't really said what the pricing is going to be on the police package. And I wouldn't necessarily count on it being all that reasonably priced, because this is based on the Blazer EVSS powertrain, which is it's about the same price as the Mach-E GT.
True.
So it's not going to necessarily be cheaper. What Chevy is doing is they are pre-wiring it from the factory for all of the lights and radios and everything. So it's got a different wiring harness from what you'll find in a civilian Blazer. So when they hook up all the lights and all the other stuff that needs to go into a police vehicle, they won't have to do any modifications to the wiring. It's basically just going to be plug and play. So there is that. And this version for the police package is supposed to have a range rating of about 250 miles, and it comes with 20-inch steel wheels. So 20-inch steelies. Cool.
Yeah. I don't think they're offering those for the consumer packages, unfortunately.
No, but I'm sure you'll be able to get them, if you really want, if you really want steelies. So yeah, you won't, consumers won't be able to order those, from the factory, but you can be able to find something off the internet or somewhere. So expect, and one of the other things they have in there is a stealth mode that officers can engage. So if they're, going down a dark alley, after somebody, not only is this thing quiet, but they can also turn off all the lights, so just kind of creep along in the dark and you would never know it.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And for a police vehicle, you kind of need that.
Yep.
Well, it's smart for GM. They're going to get more Blazers out in front of people, more EVs out in front of people. From a marketing standpoint, it's kind of like Barbie. You just want more people to see your vehicle, your EV, and to think about it.
Yeah, and they have something roughly equivalent to the Tesla dog mode. The officers will be able to keep the car on. Yeah. So when they step away from the vehicle, with the fob in their pocket, they can leave it running and leave things like air conditioning and or heat on. So if they have somebody in the back of the vehicle, they can leave everything closed up. Or a dog. Yeah. In the video, the Chevy video, they specifically mention, for canine units, they'll be able to leave the air conditioning on with the dogs in the car. And, as a crossover, as a mid-sized crossover, it's got decent amount of cargo space in the back for all the gear that officers carry when they're on duty. All the radios and all the other gear that they have to take along with them, which was always one of the complaints with the Dodge Charger. The cops love the performance of the Charger, but the Charger had a relatively small trunk.
Yeah.
And with a spare tire in there, it was often a problem getting all the equipment in there. So that's why a lot of police forces chose the Explorer or the Tahoe over the sedans because they had a lot more space in the back, and so this will give them a good option for that.
This might have a frunk too, right? I can't remember if it has a neat frunk or not.
I don't think it does.
Oh, okay.
Because I think this has the similar architecture to the Lyric, so it probably doesn't have a frunk in there.
Okay.
All right. The Kia EV5 is something that we don't know for sure if this is coming to America. I'd say it's probably a pretty safe bet that it will. I hope it does. But it was unveiled this week at the Chengdu Motor Show in China by Kia. Looks a lot like the EV9, but smaller. It's a 2-row midsize crossover, compactish midsize. I found the specs for it, which weren't listed on the Kia media site. But it's basically almost the same size as the new Sportage. Based on the eGMP platform. And what do you think about this one?
Bring it here.
Yeah.
The end. I driven the EV9. I really liked it. I'm like, oh, well, this is just a small EV9 for people who don't need, a third row. Bring it here. Bring it
Damn
here.
Jalopnik. I'm getting pop-ups. Sorry. Go ahead. I was trying to look at the pictures and I just scrolled down.
Go over to the other link, the Kia News Center link.
Okay.
That's their global media press page.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool looking, I think. If you look at the picture of the dashboard, the interior, and zoom in on it, you can see that unlike other current Kias like the EV6, this one has some physical buttons under the touchscreen for things like the climate control. So, one of the things that I think a lot of us have complained about on the EV6 and some other recent Kias is that touch panel across the dash underneath the touchscreen for media controls and climate controls that toggles back and forth between the two. And that, is kind of a pain. And they didn't do that on this one. They actually kind of reverted back to some physical controls. There's rockers for the temperature control, the fan speed, the mode, and then there's a little roller switch for volume right in the middle. So that was really nice to see there.
I must be the only person who likes the toggle. I once you get used to it on the EV6, I think it's brilliant. You just hit the arrow and then you get a whole new control system and it's very clean. And
then I'm always turning. Well, it's smart because they updated it, because originally it would just stay on that thing, and you could set. I think you could set it in like media, so you hit it and then it goes to climate controls, and after a moment it goes back to audio. So you're not like turning up the sound, but instead it's just getting warmer and warmer.
Right.
So they made it better, but I just want a physical button. I just want to
a few buttons.
To hit something. I don't want to have to hit 2 buttons in order just to make it a little bit warmer in my car, or a little bit cooler.
Well, you can use voice command. Hit one button, say I'm cold, and it'll get warmer.
Just yell, make it cold. I demand frigid air.
One interesting detail on here is if you look at the front seats, the photos of the front seats, they show it, the passenger seat kind of wrapping over the center console. So it's almost like a bench seat, except it's not. Because you can't, there's no seatbelt there. There's no extra seatbelt there. And there's no seat cushion. It's just the armrest, or the center armrest folds up. So I'm not sure why they did this, but
that's for your tiny dog.
It's not a purse. I mean, for a woman's purse, you can just set it there. There's almost like a little groove to hold it. I don't know. That's what I saw when I looked at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the bin there, which is fine. But I guess why do you need like the seat cushion kind of extending over top of that? It seems a little odd
for tiny dogs.
Could be.
Well, isn't there like an armrest that comes down over it?
Yeah, there is. Which
so
makes
you
all
have the armrest. So you have the armrest that comes down that has like all your little storage that comes over it, but then you lift it up, and then you just like put your tiny dog, and then you get a little special harness for him, and you connect it to that armrest, and then your little tiny dog gets sit up front with you.
I think this is as much about design aesthetics as it is functionality. I think
Definitely.
they're trying to keep that, sort of consistent color across the middle. And yeah, I mean, it would have looked weird if it had been matte black or, piano black.
Tiny. I'm telling you, tiny dog.
Tiny dog. Yeah.
That's my final answer.
Gives a cushioned area for your tiny dog.
Yeah, you put the little armrest
they don't
goes
have to
up.
sit on the hard.
It locks up, and then you have a little harness and attaches to the little armrest area, and then your little tiny dog can just sit up there with you.
Yeah, I mean, I have a harness for my dog. When she comes in the car with us, it plugs into the seatbelt buckle.
Seatbelt.
Yeah, so I hook it up to her regular harness that I use when we're walking, and then plug it into the seatbelt. And
wouldn't it be nice if you and your wife could sit in the front seat and then have Daisy sitting right between you with her little harness?
She could help you drive.
She could help you drive. Yeah. She could bat your paw. She could pat your paw. She could change the station on the radio.
Slow down.
She's like, too fast. Where are we going? What are you in a hurry for? Where's the fire, buddy?
Other than that, I really like the design of this, and I hope that they do bring this here. And I'm guessing that we'll probably see it maybe at the LA Auto Show in November.
That's a good guess. That's a very good guess.
La Auto Show.
All right. And it would be a good alternative for Kia in that size class, that is more, like a real crossover-ish SUV, as opposed to the EV6, which, despite being classified as a crossover, it's not a crossover. It's a hatchback, and that's good because I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Staying with Kia, sadly, it appears that the Rio is going to be no more for the U.S. market. Kia has unveiled the K3, I think, which is their new small car. Which is going to be available in Mexico. It's going to be built in Mexico, actually, for the Latin American market. But apparently, we will not be getting that here in in the U.S. or in Canada, which is unfortunate because the Rio is quite a nice little car, and it's one of the 3 cars that you can still get that has a base sticker price that is well under $20,000. The other ones being the Mitsubishi Mirage, which why, and the Nissan Versa, which is also a pretty decent car for the price, but the Rio is apparently going away. Too bad.
Yeah.
Well, people say they complain about cars being too expensive and they want cheaper cars, and then they offer a cheaper car like this, and it's just not selling enough volume to make it practical. So it's like, they got to follow the market.
They sold 27,000 in 2022, and so far this year they've sold 16.
Yeah,
I feel like 20 should be is good enough, but when you only have to look at your everything else is
when you have to invest tens of billions of dollars in electrification, the cost to homologate something like the Rio for the U.S. market probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Those cars don't make enough money, and dealers don't want them. That's the biggest problem, is dealers don't want them.
Yeah, they want something with higher margins.
Yeah, big time.
Yep. All right, back to charging. Robbie, I know you've tried the Tesla Magic Dock.
I have,
and I don't think
it worked surprisingly well.
Have you had a chance to try one out, Tanya?
It's still the closest one is Indianapolis, right? So
yeah. Indianapolis or Buffalo. Well, you can now get a Magic Dock for home. Tesla has just launched their universal wall adapter, which is, it's their home charger. It's their home level 2 charger, but it now basically has a Magic Dock built into it. So it works a lot like the supercharger Magic Dock, in that there is a built-in adapter for J1772 port, which is what you get on all the non-Tesla EVs. And unlike the supercharger, you don't have to use the Tesla app with it. So if you just pull the cord out, it comes out with just the NACS connector on it, the standard Tesla NACS connector. And if you're charging your Tesla, you can use that. Or if you want to charge a non-Tesla vehicle at home with this thing, There's an adapter built in there, and you just when you grab it, you grab that part of it, and it pulls out, and it's already connected on the NACS connector, and it's latched on there, so you can't pull them apart. And you plug it into your non-Tesla EV, and as soon as it starts charging, it locks on there, so you can't pull it apart, which is good. And it's gives you an option, so if you have a mixed household with Tesla and non-Tesla vehicles, or you just want to be prepared for the day when everybody is using NACS connectors, you can get these things now through Tesla, through their website.
App. I'm on the app right now looking at it. It's $595.
Yeah. So it's pricey. It's quite a bit more expensive than a lot of other chargers. Although, if you compare,
you get 11.5 kilowatts out of it, though.
Yeah, if you compare it to other, 11 kilowatt chargers, they're smart chargers. You can monitor them. They're connected, so you can monitor it with the app and monitor the state of charge and charging speeds and everything. It's actually in the same ballpark. The Autel home charger that I've been testing for a few months now, that one is priced about the same, and that's a 9.6 kilowatt charger. So it's similar pricing to those. And then the standard Tesla wall connector that doesn't have the magic dock, that only supports NACS, that one's $475. So
yeah, not that much more, really.
Yeah. So, and Tom Malogny did a good video, first test of this, that I'll include the link to that in the show notes. Tom does a lot of good stuff with charging.
He knows his charging.
Yep. And then one last item is TFL. I want to give a shout out to Roman and Tommy and Andre and Nathan and everybody else at TFL. Roman was nice enough to give us a shout out on TFL Talk last week. And these guys do some great work. They've got the TFL Talk podcast, but they do a lot of videos every week on a lot of different stuff. They do trucks and cars and EVs and off-road stuff, and bikes and classic cars, some really funny stuff, including the Cheap Jeep series that they're running right now. Roman told me about this last spring. He gave Tommy, his son, Nathan, and Andre a task, gave them each $10,000 budget to go out and buy a Jeep. And whatever they didn't spend out of the $10,000 on the vehicle, they could spend towards upgrades for the vehicle. And the goal was to get a cheap Jeep and take it to Moab and see if it could survive. And they just published episode 4 today, which is their trip to Moab with the cheap Jeeps. Tommy bought a 61 Willys CJ5, which is, that's going hardcore.
Tommy doesn't mess around.
And
you got time for shenanigans.
Nathan and Andre both bought Jeep Liberties. Andre got a first-gen Liberty, and Nathan got a second-gen Liberty.
Okay, I'm just going to say the first-gen Liberty to me seems like the biggest. The first-gen Liberty, which is the mid-2000s, which isn't a great time for American vehicles, to be honest. That seems like the bigger gamble to me.
Yeah, although it was also the cheapest. I think he paid like $3,300 for it.
Yeah, that's bad. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And it only had 200,000 miles on it. So what could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong with mid-2000s Jeep engines?
Well, that 61 CJ5 had 4-wheel drum brakes, no locking diffs, none of the fancy stuff. It does have I think 4 shift levers down there, or maybe it's 3. I think it's 4 shift levers, to lock the transfer case and to shift between 4 low and 4 high.
You have to go out and lock the hubs.
It has manual locking hubs.
Yeah.
So it's I'll have a link in the show notes to a playlist of all the episodes, the 4 episodes, and there's one more bonus episode coming up. So the Moab episode, like I said, just came up this morning as we're recording this, and then there's one more bonus episode coming about the trip from Boulder, where they're based, out to Moab, towing the cheap Jeeps out there. It's very entertaining, and like I said, Roman and the team do a lot of great work there. So, definitely recommend that you subscribe to their channels and watch their videos. Good stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and great people too.
Yeah, they're good people.
All right, let's answer some listener emails. First up, Michael Burns says he asked us in the Discord for user discussion. Now I'm curious if you're hearing anything about this unusual tire problem on Volvo PHEVs. So Mr. Burns in Atlanta asks, this is a hypothetical, which means I'm pretty sure it's not hypothetical. A driver buys a new 2022 Volvo XC60 Recharge. That's the plug-in hybrid. Puts 10,000 miles on the PHEV in about a year. It's shod in Continental tires or whatever OEM tires come with the car. 2-3 days per week, the driver commutes about 70 miles round trip to Atlanta interstates to the office. The driver never gets the tires rotated. And, keep in mind, this is only 10,000 miles. Yet the car has been serviced by a Volvo dealership 2 to 3 times for prepaid maintenance and 1 to 2 times with the PHEV stuff. Upon driving to Florida at around the year mark, the driver discovers that the rear set of Continentals are bald, showing what's underneath the rubber. The driver replaces all 4 tires with Pirellis and is told the following by a reputable tire shop. 1, there's a lot more weight on the rear tires because of the PHEV batteries. 2, the higher torque from the PHEV is going to wear these tires more. And 3, this would not have happened if the driver or dealership had rotated the tires at least once in the last year. Does this sound like a plausible argument? Something about which lax PHEV drivers should be aware. Should the dealership have rotated the tires at least once with Volvo's current warranties and included service, luxury car, nice stuff? Would the Continentals have been some sort of specialty high efficiency tire for EVs or PHEVs that didn't wear as well? Note, the hypothetical driver may also have hypothetically found forum discussions about premature tire wear failure on their Volvo Recharge CVs. So the answer is yes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know how the power distribution is. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle, but if you take off, if you're the kind of person who stomps on the accelerator all the time, and if the initial, because the car leans back, so you're going to add more weight you already have the weight back there, especially if you're someone who stomps on the accelerator a lot, you're gonna wear through those tires. And
the Volvos have what is a sort of unusual powertrain configuration. So most hybrids and plug-in hybrids, the engine is combined with the transmission in the front of the car, and so you get drive from both the engine and the motor in various combinations through the transmission to either 2 or 4 wheels. And the Volvo is a little different. So the Volvo is configured like a front wheel drive car. So you got the engine in the front, it's transverse mounted, drives the front wheels through the transmission. So the engine is only driving the front wheels. And then there's an electric motor on the rear axle. So it's what's known as a through the road hybrid. So the electric drive goes through the rears. So a couple of things here. Yes, anything that is electric or electrified plug-in hybrid or electric is going to tend to wear the tires. The tires the wheels that are being driven by the electric motor are going to tend to wear faster because of that extra instantaneous torque. And this is an issue across the board with electrified vehicles. Mm-hmm. So the higher torque is going to have an impact there. In the case of the Volvos, there's also more weight on the rear axle than you would have on the internal combustion version. Although, compared to the front wheel drive version, the all wheel drive, the difference is not going to be as huge because their battery runs down the center tunnel. So you're going to have more weight on the back, but you're also going to have more weight on the front. It's kind of more evenly distributed. But you will have more weight on the back because of the electric motor. And then finally, this would not have happened if the tires had been rotated. That is also true. Or at the very least, your tires would have worn more quickly, evenly.
You sort of spread it out.
Right.
Yeah.
I really feel like the dealers were negligent in not rotating, because even on an ICE vehicle, you rotate every 5 5,000 to 7,500 miles. And it's going to have to be more than that on EVs. It's just people are going to have to get used to rotating their tires a lot.
I actually should just realize I should go rotate the tires on the Hyundai.
I
was like, wait, how many miles are on the Hyundai? When's the last time we rotated? I'm like, you know what? I think I need to get that done.
Yep.
See, that's one of the disadvantages of an EV compared to an internal combustion vehicle. You know, every time you go get an oil change, you have the tires rotated and you're good. Works out fine.
Because you just sort of like, oh, I don't have to do anything. Because you really, like, the only thing we've really done so far is that we had them rotated before, and I put windshield wiper fluid in there.
Yeah, that's you know, unless you're going to like if you go to any dealer or any, you know, most shops, unless you're going to one of these quick oil change places where they typically are not set up to do that tire rotation. If you go to a dealer or anything else, they usually package tire rotation with an oil change, because, you know, it takes like 10 minutes to rotate all 4 tires in a shop. So yeah, definitely, you know, plan on rotate, especially, you know, if you've got anything that's either 2-wheel drive or has a configuration like this, where you've got, you know, internal combustion and electric drive split between the 2 axles. It's a good idea to plan on rotating your tires about every 5,000 to 7,000 miles. And at least that will even out the wear. So you'd probably get closer, somewhere between 15 and 20,000 miles out of these tires, before they would need to be replaced. In this case, you know, obviously when you put the front tires on the rear, then, you know, they are going to wear a little faster, but, you know, you're not going to wear them unevenly in that case.
Yeah.
All right. Next up from LJ, says, listening to this week's podcast, and fear in an effort to provide context, I instead provided confusion. So LJ had written in before. Says the bad about his experience with ordering and disordering a Cadillac Lyriq. The bad news is that you re-answered my question from May 1st, but apparently didn't see the August 13th update. My fault there. I got confused. The good news is that your answers were consistent. Oh, okay. Well, at least we answered the same question twice in the same way. I waited your review of the Lyriq, but it doesn't seem like Cadillac has released any vehicles for review, as there haven't been any professional reviews since Park City. There have been a few that have popped up. I think some Lyriqs are starting to trickle out into the press fleet. I know Tom Malogny, who I mentioned, recently got his hands on one and reviewed it. And actually was quite positive about it. He did his 70 mile per hour range test, and it got well over 300 miles an hour, well over 300 miles of range, with even driving at 70 on the highway. So that's good. So here's the text of the follow-up email that we neglected to answer because I neglected to put it in the show notes. So just to follow up, inspired in part by this week's listener message, felt long, so feel free to use none of it. After about a week after I had sent this email, I called my dealership to change my order. They informed me that my car had been scheduled for June 12th, and I was no longer able to make changes. They also said that it would probably take 2 to 3 months for my vehicle to arrive after it had been built due to shipment issues, etc. On June 30th, I received a call from the dealer saying that my car had arrived to come pick it up. They had not received any advance notice from GM that the vehicle had shipped. It just showed up. The car, there you go. The car itself rides. Yeah, and this happens sometimes, you know, and it depends a lot on where you're located. You know, sometimes if you happen to live in relative close geographic proximity to the factory, it can arrive fairly quickly, or sometimes it can take months. Like I once ordered a Chrysler vehicle that was built in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and it took 2 months to get from the factory to my dealer. So there's that. Anyway, the car itself rides and drives nice and compares favorably to the BMW X5 I'd owned previously, and it stickers for a few grand less than the X5 did back in 2017. It's an SUV and does what an SUV is supposed to do, haul a couple of people around and pick up mulch on the weekend. Yeah, that sounds about right. Probably 10 or 12 bags. As an all-wheel drive, it has 500 horsepower and more than enough get up and go. So that means you got a 2024 model, so that's good. While marginally quieter than the X5, the tire noise on certain road surfaces make conversations and auto podcasts hard to hear. Although I was unable to upgrade to the luxury 2 trim, which is closer to the debut edition I had pre-ordered last May, GM, after much wrangling, decided to honor the $5,000 rebate they had given others in my situation. That means that all in, after the rebate and tax incentive, the car came to $54,000, including the $1,395 delivery fee. Turns out that part of the problem with the slow production and the failure to build many 23 debut editions is that they didn't have enough Super Cruise to go around, so the level 1 cars got built before the upscale 2 and 3 level cars were scheduled. That is true. GM was leaving Super Cruise off a number of vehicles where it was optional because they had part of the chip shortage, and on cars like the Lyric, where it was standard, that was part of the reason why they didn't build as many, because they couldn't get those parts.
It wasn't even on the cars that we test drove in Park City.
They had the hardware, but the software wasn't ready at that point.
Right.
But rather than build the cars without the hardware, they just that was one of the things that led to production delays. One of several things. But anyway, problems. In a month and a half, I've had 3. The front passenger inside door latch did not work properly. It should have been caught at the factory or pre-delivery, but it wasn't. In fact, when the sales guy was saying goodbye and getting out of the car, it didn't work for him. Turns out there's a cable inside the panel and it wasn't seated properly. That's not good. Yeah.
That's good.
And then 12-volt battery failure. This is a biggie and is getting the most attention. It seems to be more prominent on 23s, but it happened to mine 2 weeks after delivery. Apparently, there's a phantom draw on the 12-volt battery, and even with an 80% state of charge, my car would not move. The fix was getting my car towed in and having the firmware on the gateway module updated. They say it was a phantom draw, but I feel that there has to be more to it than that. My car has been plugged in overnight just prior to the failure. Something has to regulate how and when the 12-volt battery takes a charge, and that must have failed as well. I did see an unscientific poll of Lyric owners on a group I'm in, and roughly a third of 23 owners have reported experiencing this, while only 2/3 or 2 of 32 2024 Lyrics had this issue. So yeah, this is not an uncommon problem on a lot of EVs. Sometimes it's a hardware issue. My guess is in this case here, it's actually a software issue. And I know one of the things that has held up Lyric production is a bunch of different software issues, because there's a lot of new stuff in this car in terms of its electrical and electronic architecture. And it's possible that there was a bug that was causing something to stay running when it shouldn't have been when the car was parked, and draining the 12-volt battery. So hopefully, you'll get a software update that fixes this.
Yeah, for those listening who don't, like, the 12-volt battery is like the battery you have in your regular ICE car. And like, we left the trunk didn't close all the way on our Hyundai, and so it drained the battery. So we had to jump start our Hyundai, our electric car, to get it started one day. I was like, well, I'm just out here jump starting my car.
Yep. And then a blackout on the infotainment screen. I was driving along and the entire infotainment screen went dark. No, Sam, this is not an improvement. This is a problem. It started working again after the car sat a while, and I see online that this is not uncommon across several vehicle lines at GM. Apparently, you can hold the hang up phone button on the steering wheel for 10 seconds and it will reboot the screen. So this is actually something I certainly experienced back in June of last year when we drove it in Utah. Was various issues with either the instrument cluster or the infotainment screen just going completely blank. That is a problem. It's a real problem, because there's so much stuff that you actually have to control through that touch screen. Mm-hmm. And again, this was a software issue. And it sounds like they're still having some software bugs even now, more than a year after production nominally started. Sounds like GM still got some work to do. Mm-hmm. Which may be why they don't want to mess around with smartphone projection, because they got so many other software things to fix. Anyway, issues and opportunities. Every car has things that some people hate and others don't. That's all subjective, but there are a few first world problem things that I feel should be addressed. The garage door opener button is on the infotainment screen behind a menu select. So you have to hit a minimum of 2 buttons to open and close the door. With therapy, I could probably learn to live with this, but the real problem is that most people back out of their garage, and many cars, and the Lyric being one of them, have their own info screen dominated by the backup camera. This means you have to back out of your garage and put the car in park or neutral and then hit 2 or 3 buttons. Not a huge deal, but certainly a bad design.
This has been like solved like decades ago, where it's just in your rearview mirror.
But then you actually have to put buttons in there and have wiring for that. And this is one of the things. This is one of the reasons why automakers, you may think it's because they tell you, people want it this way.
It looks like the future.
It looks like the future. This is what people do on their phones. They touch everything. It's not that. This is not why Tesla did this. Well, the first time I got in a Model S, I realized there was no buttons in there. It's like, no, those buttons cost a lot of money to engineer. It costs money to assemble that. This is a cost savings thing.
Sometimes you got to get multiple different buttons because different languages. It's the whole, And if we just stick everything in software and then just localize the software, it's easy peasy.
Yeah. Now,
apparently not easy peasy.
LJ, I don't know what kind of garage door opener you have, but if you happen to have one that has support for Google Assistant and Google Home, what you can do, like I have a Genie garage door opener that has support for that, and so it's set up in my Google Home system, and so I can actually just use Google Assistant to open and close the garage door without touching anything. I just say, "Hey Google, open the garage door." And
everyone who's listening to this in their car right now just had the garage door open.
Well, no, because it does ask for a PIN number.
Okay.
No, my phone just recognized me.
I was just going to say, please don't say those 2 words because my home speaker just responded.
Sorry about that. But anyway, depending on what kind of garage door opener you have, you may be able to use that as an alternative to futzing around in the screen. The feedback info for EV is really weak. You can find out your percentage of charge and your mileage to empty, but when you charge, it tells you how many miles you're adding per hour. It does not provide any information about kilowatt hours, economy, or kilowatt hour charge rate, all useful information. That's true. I mean, the GM has been a little stingy on providing a lot of that information in their EVs, unfortunately.
Doesn't make for a good user experience.
No,
it was really difficult, like with the Bolt, like trying to figure out how to calculate without a percentage rate. Like I was trying to calculate for my range runs, and I'm just like, what? And then there was, I figured out a way, but it was a pain.
Yeah. And then the software provided for specifying preferred charging times is inadequate. It wants me to tell it when I want my car charged, and it will charge it when it sees fit, trying to maintain my preferred window, but it may not be able to. I want to tell it to start at 10 p.m., but not a minute sooner, but there's no way to do that. My electric provider has very low rates from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. and pretty low rates from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., but it has 3 times the rate from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Obviously, I want to avoid those hours, but their settings don't provide for that. So, that's
a weird.
Yeah, they, again, this is something, depending on what kind of home charger you're using, you may be able to program it easier in your charger.
Right.
Again, that Autel charger I'm using, it does a really good job with that. I can program that stuff in there. So you might want to look at what you have, depending on what kind of charger you're using.
Yeah, we did ours. I've programmed ours through our charger, so the charger has the hours. But it's that way, if other people plug into the house, like my brother visits or whatever, it doesn't like start charging at like 6 in the evening, and I'm paying some outrageous amount of money.
And the other thing too is you can also, in a lot of the connected chargers, you can see, what kind of charging rate you're getting, how much electricity it's actually putting in through the charger interface as well. So that's another reason why you might want to consider one of those. And then these are all things that can and probably will be addressed by updates, but they're things that make me shudder when I think that they are planning on rolling out their own OS in a year or so. Actually, a lot of that OS is already in your car. They're just continuing to refine it. I was in software development and InfoSec for over a decade. Software is hard. Software is really hard. Secure software is even harder. I've seen a lot of homegrown solutions over the years, and most failed, and they all came in way more costly than expected. VW. It's clear that subscription income streams and exclusive control of user information are driving these decisions, but I think it's time to take a step back and look at what they can do to put the best product out first. Of course, all of this becomes academic if the UAW destroys what's left of the domestic automakers. Regards, Larry. So a lot there to think about. And then we have one more. And this one was from Chinton. It says, thanks for a great show every week. Please keep up the good work. A set of questions relating to my son who just turned 15 and has gotten his learner's permit here in Georgia. Ooh. First of all, we should not be giving 15-year-olds the ability to drive. That's just.
I got mine when I was 15.
Yeah, I got mine when I was 15. What are you talking about?
I only wrecked one car.
That's a rarity. Anyway,
I had a minor car accident.
Well, I actually wrecked the car before I got my learner's permit, but that's not important.
You got to start kids somewhere.
First question: Do you have any thoughts or tips about the process of teaching a new driver how to drive? We live in the city of Atlanta, so around here, he's only driven at an abandoned mall about 15 minutes from our house. But we have to let him drive on public roads near his grandparents in rural Georgia, where roads are much less busy. Any words of wisdom from you guys about teaching your kids to drive? Example, how long before they should be allowed on busier streets, highways, etc. I would say, keep them on minimal roads until they're at least 25. A lot depends on the individual. I mean, you've got to use your judgment, judge, how responsible is the kid?
Every kid is different. What's their level of comfort? How do they feel about it too? Yeah,
absolutely. I would also strongly recommend, getting them into a good driver school, a good driver education program. High school programs, even if they still even exist, usually aren't great. One thing you might want to consider, once they've gotten a little bit more experience, is to possibly even send them to a driving school, like a race driving school. Most race driving schools have specific programs for young drivers that are to teach them defensive driving techniques, and they focus on things like making sure that they're looking, checking their mirrors, looking around them all the time, being aware of what's around them, but also teach them skills in handling, how to handle the vehicle in inclement weather. If you get snow or rain, what do you have to do? So they'll teach them skid control, things like that. And if you're in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure there's a driving school at Road Atlanta at the racetrack there that probably offers a program like that. So you might want to consider that. It's not inexpensive, but when you consider the cost of somebody's life, it's probably worth it. So that's something to consider. And then spend as much time in the car with them as you can tolerate. Because again, depending on your kid, it can be very stressful when you are trying to teach your kid to drive, which is one of the reasons why I suggest, sending them to somebody else to teach them the basics, and then be with them to practice, and make sure they get lots and lots of practice. Any other thoughts from either of you? I mean, neither of you have kids and have gone through this.
Oh, I've got stepkids. I 4 teenage boys I went through this with many years ago. I was just looking at the teen driving schools, and BMW's got a couple of them, but they're nothing in Atlanta, unfortunately. The closest one would be Spartanburg, South Carolina. They've got a teen driving school. It's not outrageously expensive. It's like a one-day course for $999. I mean, I don't know. That's
I mean, it's $1,000 is not cheap, but it's probably worth it for the peace of mind. Next, the next question is having listened to several dozen of your episodes, my son is kind of a car guy now. He initially talked about getting a used GTI or 86 BRZ as his first car, assuming we can find the balance between price and safety feature content. I think those would be great cars for a new driver. but now he has decided that he loves my car, an 80,000 mile 2016 Audi A6 with the 3-liter supercharged V6. Please confirm that a 16-year-old has no business driving a car with 300 plus horsepower and pounds-feet of torque, no matter how old or how many miles it has on it. No, absolutely not.
No.
Under no circumstances.
All right.
This is based on my own experience as a person who drove cars very fast on mountain roads. If someone had given me 300 horsepower, I would have ended up in a bunch of ditches. More than the one ditch I ended up in.
Yeah.
My first vehicle was a Pontiac Firebird, so I don't think I'm a good person to ask that question to, actually.
Just you know what? Slow car fast, to be honest. Slow car fast is way more fun. Getting something the GTI, an 80.
Actually, you know
BRZ.
what? It doesn't even need to be a GTI. Just get a regular Golf.
Yeah, regular Golf.
The Golf is a really good handling car, or a Honda Fit is actually a really fun car to drive.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of power, but it's a good slow car fast kind of thing. Yeah. Or if you want a sports car, Miata. BRZ 86 is not bad, especially the first gen. It's 220 horsepower is probably more than I'd prefer for a first car, but it's not crazy fast.
Minis aren't bad for teen drivers either. I've got a
that's also a great choice.
And it's a good package. It's a fun car, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to focus on is something that handles well. Has some modern safety features. Certainly airbags and seatbelt alerts, things like that. But doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of horsepower. So not a John Cooper Works Mini, just a regular one.
Right.
But or any of those cars, are a really good choice, because the handling is more important than the power. You don't need the really fast acceleration, because that's just going to get you into trouble sooner.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did find a teen driving program at Atlanta Motorsports Park, which I put the link in our chat, and perhaps we can put it in the link for whoever's listening.
Yep.
Show notes.
I will put that in here right now. And then finally, with BEVs, electric vehicles clearly being the future, I've also considered finding a cheap, low-range EV for them instead of an ICE vehicle. An e-Golf or a first-generation Bolt could both be fun, useful first cars for him. And since he really has little experience driving cars, introducing him to an EV driving would be like drawing on a clean sheet of paper. What do you think of simply skipping ICE cars altogether for a young driver? I think that's a great idea.
The Bolt would be a great first vehicle.
Yeah.
I would pick the e-Golf because it's a lot more fun to drive, and also he can't go as far away.
that's also a good point.
Where are you gonna go? You only got 100 and something miles.
True, tether. It's like putting a tether on your kid.
Yeah.
Like a little thing of... The e-Golf is kind of like driving a GTI. That he doesn't have to spend any money on gas. It's got that automatic tethering system. So that would actually be a great choice if you can find a nice e-Golf. But Bolt is also really good. Or Leaf wouldn't be as much fun. But actually, you know what is actually a lot of fun to drive and has that same advantage of short range is the Fiat 500e.
Yeah.
If you can find a 500e, I actually felt the 500e was more fun to drive than the 500 Abarth.
It is. It's definitely. I driven the Abarth on Laguna Seca, and I still had more fun than the 500e just driving around town.
Yeah. So consider the 500e or the e-Golf or the Bolt. Any of those I think would be great choices. So that's it for this week. Thank you everybody for listening, and keep sending in the questions. We enjoy them. And again, if you want to record something and send it to us, we will include that in the show as well as we have in the past. So we'll talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
O'Reilly! Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly VeriScan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly VeriScan today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.